What is going on, YouTubeverse? John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, and we are here, guys. The top 5 of the top 100 artists of all time, as voted by you guys. Can't believe we finally made it, but we're here, and man, I'm so psyched to get into this, guys. You really outdid yourselves with this list. It's been fantastic thus far, and I think you're going to be happy with the top 5. So let's get right to it. At number 5... Jimi Hendrix. Ah, man, absolutely deserves to be in the top 5. Just one of the most influential artists of all time, not just as one of the greatest guitarists, which in my opinion, he was the greatest, but also as a songwriter. I mean, songs like Bold as Love and Castles Made of Sand and Little Wing, and that's all from Axis Bold as Love. And then you got, his remake of All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan, fantastic. His cover of Hey Joe, his version is the standard of Hey Joe. I could go on and on. Voodoo Child, you name it. For me, if I had to pick a favorite album of his, it would be Band of Gypsies right here, the live album that he did with Buddy Miles leading into New Year's Eve, going into 1970. Just incredible, those live songs and those new songs that no one had heard before at that point, like Who Knows and Machine Gun. Just the thought of what he could have accomplished had he lived longer. Man, what a loss. And what a pick at number 5. So now at number 4, Led Zeppelin. Oh yeah, man. One of my favorite bands of all time. I would rank them as my favorite band of the 1970s for sure. And, here's my favorite Zeppelin album. They're all on my wall of perfect albums behind me, most of the people on this top 5. But yeah, you can't go wrong with Zoso, man. From Stairway to Heaven to When the Levee Breaks. I mean, come on. It's got everything you need. But really, their entire discography from Led Zeppelin 1 all the way through The Outdoor and Coda as well had some really cool stuff that was put together posthumously after the loss of John Bonham. But man, just so many songs, Whole Lot of Love, Since I've Been Loving You, just incredible, man. Every single person in that band by themselves, but as a whole, they were even greater than the sum of their parts somehow. And yeah, they just continue to go on generation after generation. I'll never forget the first time that I heard Dazed and Confused, for example, just blew my mind and kind of opened my mind to listening to music of an era before mine, and never went back after that. So that's at number 4. Now at number 3, the Rolling Stones. Absolutely. I mean, come on. One of the greatest bands of all time. And, years ago, I probably would have said that them being ranked this high, maybe they're a little overrated. But, I've really changed on that. I think that they deserve their space as one of the greatest ever. Mick Jagger and Keith Richards as a songwriting team. I mean, just some of the songs that they created in the late 60s, like Gimme Shelter and Sympathy for the Devil, just incredible. And the fact that they are still doing their thing and doing it at such a high level, like, man, 2016's Blue and Lonesome, which was all blues covers, but just done so well, man. And Charlie Watts, just such a great in-the-pocket drummer. Just throughout the years, they have always been consistently great. Even their missteps have had at least 1 or 2 hits on their albums. If I had to pick a favorite, I would probably go with 69's Let It Bleed. But I mean, just so many great albums, especially in that run of the late 60s through the early 70s. Exile on Main Street, Goat's Head Soup, just all of it classic. Sticky Fingers, for God's sakes. Just absolute legends, and definitely deserve to be this high on the list. So now the final two guys, here we go. At number 2, Bob Dylan. Robert Zimmerman himself. I mean, come on, guys. Absolutely deserves to be this high on the list. When I think of greatest singer-songwriters ever, it's hard not to think of him first. I mean, just as a solo artist, it's incredible what he achieved just in the 60s alone. But then talk about somebody who's not just still going, but constantly reinventing himself throughout his career and always keeping people guessing as to where he's going to go next. I mean, in the 70s, that may have been some of his strongest material, with albums like Blood on the Tracks and Desire. And man, the song Hurricane from Desire is so incredible. And then going another left turn in the late 70s, early 80s, when he went into his Christian period and was writing all these gospel songs. And people were just like, what? This is crazy. And then his big comeback in the 90s with albums like Time Out of Mind, which is just such a cool, bluesy, kind of dark record. And then taking the reins in the early 2000s with albums like Love and Theft, where he self-produced it, and it was like his ode to the early 20s and 30s eras, way before his time, and he did it so well. And his gravelly voice actually kind of fit in with that vibe as well. He's just one of the greatest, man, ever. And I could go on and on about him, but I think he's about to turn 80 years old, and he's still going strong, man. But if I had to pick a favorite album, I'd go with Highway 61 Revisited from 1965. I mean, come on, man. Every single song on there is a classic. Like a Rolling Stone. I mean, come on. So, yeah, guys, great pick. And I think you can guess who number 1 is. So here we go. At number 1, the Beatles. Of course. I mean, it had to be the Fab Four. And, you know, some people might actually say the Beatles are overrated, but I think that's until you're properly introduced to their music. And for many years, I wasn't. You know, I grew up, my mom played Beatles records all the time, specifically a lot of the mid 60s, like Rubber Soul and Help and Hard Day's Night. And while I did love and appreciate that music, it wasn't until I really got into their later stuff, like Abbey Road, where it was just like, wow, yeah, these guys were incredible and they could do anything. And just, I mean, come on, man. The ending of Abbey Road, that whole stretch of songs that continue, and it's just mind-blowing how great they were. And then when you realize that they were already essentially on the verge of breakup, and they created such a magical record at that time, it's amazing. But then going backwards through the White Album, just every genre of music that you could think of, and they're all doing it so well. And it's hard to, you know, pick between Paul and John as who's the better vocalist, who's the better singer-songwriter. They were always just neck and neck at being great. My favorite Beatle technically was George, because even though he didn't contribute a lot of songs early on, and a lot of that was because John and Paul kind of nixed it, but towards the end, man, he was writing stuff like Something and Here Comes the Sun, and then of course, just came full force with his debut album in 1970. Just so much greatness. But an underrated guitarist. I mean, Ringo continues to be an underrated drummer. I mean, the guy, he had to keep up with these 3 songwriting giants who just continued to change the way music was being made. I mean, think about that. You're a drummer in a band that made Sgt. Pepper, and you've got to figure out a way to make these songs like A Day in the Life sound interesting and still keep the beat. And songs like Come Together, like that little fill that he does on there, just incredible, man. The only band that I can think of that in basically a 7 to 8 year period had such a transformation, and every album just kept getting better and better. Even Let It Be was fantastic, and I can't wait for that film, by the way, that Peter Jackson is showing this footage that no one's ever seen before, to show the joy instead of the sadness of the end of the Beatles. Come on, I could go on about these guys all day long. Number one, absolutely. I mean, there's no question. So guys, now that we're here, we did the top 100 albums, we've done the top 100 artists. What's next? Top 100 songs of all time picked by you guys. So here we go. I'm setting a deadline, May 31st. Get me your list. You can do as little as 25 in order. You can do as many as 100 if you want. The more songs that you submit on your list, the more heavily weighted they will be. But even if you only want to give me 10, that's fine. Just give me your favorite songs of all time, ranked in order from best to least favorite, and we are going to have another fantastic top 100, guys. So you can comment it on this video. I'm going to do an official announcement next week as well, where you can comment there also. However you want to get it to me, I will take your list and make sure the votes count. And guys, thank you again. This has been so fun, and I don't want it to end. So that's why we're doing another top 100 right away. And guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, Viva la vinyl. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and be sure to ring the bell for notifications so you can always see great quality content like you're seeing on the screen right now. Thank you so much for supporting Johnny Radio, and I'll see you soon.